What's going on, guys? KJ here, and today we're going to do a deck tech on one of my favorite, meanest, and most evil commanders to ever touch the playing field, and that is going to be with Tergrid, God of Fright. This deck, around time of recording, is going to be about $156.05. But looking at Tergrid, she is 3 and a black. Whenever an opponent sacks a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you can put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And yes, that does exactly what it sounds like it does. It literally will take anything, pretty much anything, other than instant sorceries and tokens from a graveyard and just give it to you. So, and for free. So with that, you want to have ways to actually get rid of that stuff, especially being able to have someone discard from their hand is very strong. So I like to come out swinging on the discard with Burglar Rat. He is 1 in a black. When Burglar Rat enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Now it does, I have played this a few times, and honestly it does, you do want to see Burglar Rat a little bit earlier than you do Tergrid, just to be able to have a creature onto the field, and that way people aren't swinging at you. But if you do already have Tergrid out, then Burglar Rat is a great option. Court of Ambition, 2 and 2 black enchantment. When Court of Ambition enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card. If you're the Monarch, instead, each opponent loses 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. So essentially, you're going to become the Monarch. People are probably going to swing at you. You are also going to make them lose 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. So if Tergrid is out onto the field, then that is going to be awesome. Here we have Creeping Dread. It is 3 and a black enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card. Each opponent who discarded a card that shares the card type with the card you discarded loses 3 life. So if they discarded a dragon and you discarded a dragon, then they are going to lose 3 life. From there, we also have Dark Deal, which is 2 and a black. It's a sorcery. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards -1. So essentially, this is just a big fuck you to everyone if you have Tergrid out. I mean, it is just an absolute brick to the head. You also have Divest, which is actually only 1 black. It's a sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. That player discards that card. Essentially, you are getting free cards, and you get to pick it. So if you get to choose an artifact or a creature, and you get to pick which one it is. Elder Fang Disciple is 1 in a black. Again, creature, elf, cleric. When Elder Fang Disciple enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So again, like Burglar Rat, another ETB discard effect. We also have cards like Fell Spectre that are 3 in a black. When Fell Spectre enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. When opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. Also, we have cards like Inquisition of Kozilek, which is only 1 black. It's a sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it with a mana value 3 or less. That player discards that card. So again, you're getting free discard, and if Tergrid is out, you are getting a card that has mana value 3 or less. But that is only for 1 black. Also, for more discard, we have Liliana, Waker of the Dead. She is 2 and 2 black. Essentially, she is going to be the bread and butter of a lot if you can get her out. She has 4 loyalty counters on her. She is a legendary planeswalker. +1 ability. Each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. So if they have no hand size, they're going to lose 3 life. The -3 ability, target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. So even if that is, I mean, you got to think that is an amazing removal ability, especially if you know that you're not going to be able to get that -7. But the -7 ultimate is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. So if somehow you manage to get Liliana up to 10, you could -3 her and kill something. And then you could -7 her, and every combat on your turn, you would be able to get a creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and it gains haste. So you can also choose to attack with it. So Liliana, I felt, was a very strong contender in this deck. There are also enchantments like Megrim, which is 2 in a black. Whenever an opponent discards a card, Megrim deals 2 damage to that player. So we also want to be able to punish players for discarding cards or sacking cards, which is also why I put another enchantment in this deck called Waste Not. It is 1 in a black. When an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, add 2 black mana to your mana pool. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. So even if they're discarding instants and sorceries, honestly, if Tergrid's not even out, this is still a great enchantment to have. You know, say you have this and you play Burglar Rat and they discard a card and it is a creature, then you get a 2/2 black zombie creature token. But to be able to get all of this, we also need to have card draw. So in order to do that, I put cards in here such as Asylum Visitor, which is 1 in a black. It is a creature vampire wizard. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So again, it is mono black, so it probably is going to hurt, but it's worth it. We also have Knight's Whisper in here, 1 in a black sorcery. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Again, it doesn't get much better than that. Phyrexian Arena, 1 and 2 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life, and that is a permanent enchantment. You have Read the Bones, which is 2 in a black, scry 2, then draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Read the Bones for 2 in a black is, in my opinion, very, very worth it, and especially for the price at around 35 cents at time of recording, that is just unbelievable. Also, we have things like Siphon Mine, which is 3 in a black. It's a sorcery. Each other player discards a card. So if Tergrid is out, you're going to go ahead. Let's say you're playing in a pot of 4. You're going to get 3 cards, possibly. And you're also going to draw a card for each card discarded this way. So not only is it discard, but it is also draw. There's not a lot of life gain in here. We have 1 life gain primary card, which is Sangromancer, which is 2 and 2 black. It has flying, and whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you may gain 3 life. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may gain 3 life. So if you're making them discard left and right, then Sangromancer will probably buff you up. In mono black, you need a lot of ramp. So obviously we went with the dynamic duo of Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, but I also put a Thought Vessel in there, a Wayfarer's Bauble, a Hedron Archive, an Everflowing Chalice, Dark Ritual, Commander Sphere, Charcoal Diamond, and Bog Witch. You got to have a ton of ramp just to be able to get this deck to function. It does not have a high mana curve. The mana curve is sitting around 2.88 on the average mana value. So it's not that high, but when you're really trying to, sling these black hateful spells while having Tergrid on the field at the same time and protecting Tergrid, it is very hard. So again, you're going to need a lot of that ramp. Now, just with straight removal to be able to sack those creatures the opponents control, is just one I like to put in here. It's called Tyrant's Choice. It's 1 in a black. Starting with you, each player votes for death or torture. If death gets more votes, each opponent sacks a creature. If torture gets more votes or the vote is tied, each opponent loses 4 life. So it really depends on the situation, but right there you are possibly already getting them to sacrifice creatures, which will allow you to in turn take those creatures if you have Tergrid. There's also Plaguecrafter, which is 2 in a black. When Plaguecrafter enters the battlefield, each player sacks a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So again, here you're either getting the sack off if you need to get something out, or you can go ahead and get the discard on a player who doesn't have a planeswalker or a creature. We also put in Mire and Misery. It is a 1 in a black sorcery. Each opponent sacks a creature or enchantment. So again, Tergrid will pull enchantments because enchantments are permanents unless they are an enchantment aura on a creature. We also put in Liliana's Triumph. We already saw Liliana Waker of the Dead Planeswalker, but we got this 1 and 1 black instant, which each opponent sacks a creature. If you control a Liliana Planeswalker, each opponent also discards a card. So there you can get a double whammy if you have Liliana Waker of the Dead out, as well as Tergrid. That would be an insane combo that I've actually pulled off. There's also Innocent Blood, which is just 1 black sorcery. Each player sacks a creature. Really cheap, really efficient, especially in bigger pods. I did go ahead and put a 9 mana card in here. It is in Garrick's Wake. It is 7 and 2 black sorcery. Destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. It is the board wipe, and it will send everything straight to graveyards if you need to pull from graveyards. If you have that Liliana's ultimate where you have the emblem where each combat you can pull from a graveyard, that would really help. There's also Fleshbag Marauder, which is 2 and a black. When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacks a creature. This also does include you if you have some tokens out, especially from Waste Not, where you're creating those 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. That can really start to pick up. I also put in Butcher of Malakir, which is 5 and 2 black. Flying, whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature. If you have any way of getting rid of your own, or if your creatures are dying, then you have a way to go ahead and make every opponent sack a creature. I also put in Army of the Damned just for shits and giggles. It is 5 and 3 black. Create 13 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Flashback for 7 and 3 black. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. So if you have enough mana, if you have ramped enough late game, you can possibly create 26 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, which in turn will really help you stack up against those big token decks. To be able to find these good cards, we want some good tutors. So I did splurge a little here. I did go with a demonic tutor, which is obviously 1 and a black sorcery. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle. I also went with a Grim Tutor, which is 1 and 2 black sorcery. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. You lose 3 life. And then I also put a Razaketh's right in here for 3 and 2 black. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Again, as you can see, you can definitely tell that we are wanting to be able to find any card and just put it into our hand for a very low cost. Razaketh's Right is not exactly that, but it is still a cheap tutor. Now for Recursion, to be able to get some of these creatures back, especially for Tergrid, I did go ahead and put Call to the Netherworld, which is 1 black, so I can return a target black creature card from my graveyard to the hand, such as cards like Blood Artist, which I put in here, which is 1 and a black. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, which is pretty important. It has a little life gain, but we're not really worried about that. We're worried about ticking other players down by making them lose 1 life. Now, as we all know, Tergrid is a big Omega level commander, so we need a little bit of protection, especially for Tergrid. I went with Kaya's Ghost Form, which is only 1 black mana. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So we get a little bit of regeneration there for Tergrid if something were to happen to her. So there's a bit of a backup plan. I also put in Lightning Greaves, which it gives her haste and shroud, and the equip cost is 0 and it's only 2 colorless to play. I also put in Mask of Evasion, which is 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+2 and has hexproof, which is very important, but the equip cost is 3. I did go ahead and throw in a Mirror Shield as well, which is 2 artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has hexproof, and whenever a creature with Death Touch blocks or becomes blocked by this creature, destroy that creature. It does have an equip cost of 2. And I did go ahead and get Swiftfoot Boots as well for 2. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip cost is 1. Now lands, we're not going to need a whole bunch of dual color lands because we are playing a mono black deck, meaning I went ahead and threw in 32 swamps. And then I also threw in a Mikokoro, Center of the Sea, which you can tap it to add 1 colorless or pay 2 and tap it, and each player draws a card. So if you are desperate for some card draw and you have nothing in your hand, you do have a way to do so. I also have Gear Reach Sanitarium, which you can tap it and add 1. And essentially you do the same thing, except for 2 and tap. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. So if you have this land out, you can essentially say, oh, well, I'm just going to pay 2 mana and tap this every turn and make everyone discard a card. Again, they will be drawing, but you will also be making them discard. With that being said, that is pretty much the deck tech. And for this budget Tergrid deck, I don't think that you can get much better. If you want your friends to absolutely despise you and don't want to play with you, this is the deck that you need to use. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little deck tech. I tried to keep it short while also making it very thorough. But if you liked it, go ahead and leave a like down below and comment what you would change about this deck. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. You make sure to have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you.